So I've been using the Switch 2 for now 2 weeks. As you guys saw from my previous video, I got it a couple of days early. So I was able to spend quite a significant amount of time with it. And during this time, I did travel to Sri Lanka as well for a holiday. So I got to try the Switch in multiple different ways while traveling, playing some games on the couch at home, running it in docked mode, having some party situations in my house with the kids playing on the Switch in multiplayer. I think I've got a good handle on what the Switch 2 is, and that's what this video is going to be about, so let's get into it. Now the Switch 2 is quite a bit larger than the original Switch. So this is the OG Switch that I got when it first came out, I think 7 years ago now. And this is the new Nintendo Switch. So the new Nintendo Switch is quite a bit larger. I'd say like 30 to 40% larger than the original Switch. Here it completely like dwarfs the Switch Mini that came out, which is also a really nice console, by the way. So this is what my daughter uses. The larger size does help in a couple of ways. So first of all, you get a much larger 7.9-inch 1080p display, which looks really nice. It's really enjoyable to play on a screen like this in handheld mode. It's also got HDR capabilities, though I don't find that the HDR quite pops that much on this screen. And it kind of does have some issues when you're in docked mode as well, which I think are core issues inside the operating system, which could be fixed later on. It's just the way that this Nintendo Switch 2 processes HDR data or calibrates HDR data. Overall, it does feel a lot more vibrant than my original Switch. Now, I've seen some other reviews online. The Nintendo Switch OLED that came out has much deeper black levels, and I wish the screen was an OLED screen, and I'm sure eventually they're going to be releasing an OLED version of this. But as of right now, I'm quite satisfied with the screen. It looks great. The colors are rich, it's bright, it's vibrant, and also it supports a 120 Hz display, which gives it a lot more fluidity. It's also got VRR support, so the frame rate automatically adjusts to the screen, which gives you smoother visuals. The additional size also gives you the larger JoyCons, which to my hands are much more comfortable to hold. My daughter, who's 6 years old, finds it a little bit large to control this like this. She finds the old Switch more comfortable. For me, there's definitely additional comfort with the Switch 2. And because even though they've increased the size of it, they haven't really increased the thickness. So if you see the thickness between both these devices, it's almost the same. And also they haven't really increased the weight too much of this. So it feels really comfortable to hold, just like the original Switch. And I've had like a couple of hours of handheld gaming sessions on this, and it does feel comfortable, but it's still not quite as comfortable as these, additional JoyCons, which I had bought for my Switch, which, would give it a lot more depth and heft to be playing long sessions on the Switch in portable mode. So these were great for my original Switch. It's not quite as comfortable as this, but a definite improvement over the original Switch. I also love the new magnetic system for the JoyCons. This is just amazing. It just feels so nice, especially when you want to hand over one of the controls to a friend to play 2 players in Mario Kart, for example. Even the stand on this thing is much nicer. So it not only supports the weight of the Switch, but also it's got multiple angles that you can put it at. And because the screen is larger, desktop play with 2 players like me and Arya were doing in Sri Lanka was really viable and great. It actually felt nice to be able to play on this screen because it is larger, and also the Joy-Cons are larger, so the 2-player like Joy-Con mode works pretty well, especially in a game like Mario Kart. Now, the Joy-Con also does have mouse functionality. So if you look at the bottom of the Joy-Con, there is a sensor over here, and this sensor works by detecting imperfections in the surface that it's on. And what this allows this Joy-Con to do is pretty much work on any surface. So you can put it on your leg, for example, and play it like that. On a table surface would be much nicer. I haven't really had much experience using the mouse apart from trying it out in Nintendo's Welcome Tour, which we'll get to in a bit. The precision of it is really cool. I'm really excited to see what it can do in first-person shooters, like when Metroid Prime comes out, or even Cyberpunk 2077, which has mouse capabilities. I just didn't buy Cyberpunk because I already own it, but if you haven't played Cyberpunk before, highly recommend if you pick up a Switch 2, get Cyberpunk. It's an amazing game. Even though the functionality is really tight, I'm just curious how many people are going to be using the mouse functionality in terms of game developers. So we'll have to see what kind of support this receives. I'm sure most first-person shooters would support mouse functionality in the future. Because it's probably not a difficult implementation, but I'm not sure how much this trend is going to catch on. And I'm sure there's some games that Nintendo will make that take advantage of this. We'll just have to wait and see whether the mouse functionality is really useful or not. But it's cool that Nintendo included it in the new JoyCons. The new JoyCons also support a new kind of haptic rumble. It provides more vibration, is more precise, and it can even make certain sounds based on the frequency of vibration that it gives. There was a demo in the Nintendo Welcome Tour which showed that off. It's pretty cool. I don't know what the practical use case for something like that is. But yes, the rumble on this is better than on the original Switch. Now let's talk about battery life. I do feel like the Switch 2 has a slightly degraded battery life over the original Switch. I mean, my Switch is really old, so the battery dies pretty quick in about an hour now. When the Switch first came out, it had about 3 to 4 hours of battery life. When the OLED Switch came out, it increased that battery life by an hour and a half. This Switch gives me about 2 hours of battery life playing an intensive game like Mario Kart or Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So it's not a bad battery life. It's quite a good battery life for a gaming session. But if you want to play extended sessions on this thing, I would highly recommend that you plug it into a 60-watt USB-C power brick, or you use a portable battery, because if you're traveling and you've got a long flight and you want to play this on the whole flight, it's just going to last 2 hours. So there's some really nifty hardware features on this thing. You have 2 USB-C ports on this. So you have one at the top, one at the bottom, which means that you can have your power connection at the top while you're still playing, and it docks into the system with the USB-C at the bottom, which makes it really convenient. You have 2 locations to charge this thing from, or connect an accessory to it while charging it. So that is a cool feature of the new Switch. It's also got a much better sound system on this. The speakers are amazing on this. It's not like the speakers you get on an iPad, for example, but it is quite a good speaker system in here. Additionally, there's a micro SD Express slot over here. So I did try to put my original Switch SD card in here, which didn't work. It has to be a micro SD Express card. But the advantage of that is that it is much faster in the read-write speeds. So when you do put in a micro SD Express card over here, the games that you load on it will load a lot faster. Now let's talk about the operating system of the Switch 2, which is almost exactly the same as the original Switch. And that is because they have maintained backward compatibility, which is one of the best features of the Switch 2, is that my whole Switch library is now on this thing with enhanced visuals, with the better screen quality, with the upgraded JoyCons. So I think it's one of the key selling points of the Switch 2. And I don't remember a time before when Nintendo actually gave you backward compatibility. There's amazing games that came out for the Switch, especially all the Nintendo first-party originals, which, you know, is one of the key reasons to buy something like the Switch. They look far better over here. A lot of them have been upgraded for the Switch 2 with enhanced visuals and graphics and resolution. As of right now, it is one of the key reasons to buy the Switch 2. Even though there's not too many games that have been specifically released for the Switch 2, just having that back catalog available with the enhanced visuals is amazing. Now, they did include some additional online features in the Switch 2 operating system, which I haven't had a chance to try out. They have camera functionality, they have multiplayer support, multiplayer chat in this. They even have a dedicated C button on the Joy-Con over here to enable that chat functionality. It's just that I'm not too much of a multiplayer person, so I didn't really explore that side of things, but just so you know, it's available. But one thing is for sure, the additional horsepower of the Switch 2 makes the whole operating system feel much smoother than it did on the original Switch. Even the Nintendo eShop, which used to take ages to load on the previous version, loads not quite instantly, but so much better than the original Switch. That thing used to take just ages to open up the shop alone. And once you're in the shop, it's far more fluid than it was before. So, just overall snappiness of the operating system is definitely there. And if you are familiar with the original Switch, this is just almost exactly the same. Let's talk about some of the games I've been playing on this. So I did buy Mario Kart World. I'm not much of a kart gamer, or I'm not really into racing games either, but I just wanted to see what the Switch 2 was capable of, and this was the marquee game that got launched with the Switch 2. So I decided to pick it up. I thought my daughter might enjoy it, and I was surprised by the quality of the game. It is great. It is a arcadey racing game with great graphics, amazing animations, and it was great. I'm still exploring some of the modes in it, but the best part is me and my daughter are able to play this together in split Joy-Con mode, and it's just a lot of fun just to be able to play with her and her excitement for the game, because it is a very polished and graphically fun game to watch on the screen and see what the Nintendo Switch 2 really does with the 4K graphics and the HDR support and the high frame rates and all that. It looks really great. And I would suggest that you pick it up if you get a Switch 2. It is one of the games that really shows it off. The game I picked up was Nintendo's Welcome Tour. And that was the first game I picked up because I wanted to see what the Switch 2 hardware is capable of. And that's a good way to try it out. But honestly, I was quite disappointed in this game. First of all, it's a tech demo that costs $10, which is, it really should have been packaged with the Switch for free, just so that you can explore everything that it can do. And even apart from that, I don't mind paying for the game, but the game was quite boring. There was a lot of reading and just walking around the space and looking at things. And then there were a few mini games, and it was quite restricted. So you had to complete all these quizzes and text-based things to show your knowledge about the Switch before you could proceed to the next area and try the other mini games. I just got tired of it after 45 minutes, and I just stopped playing it. There are some cool demos in it which showcase the 120 hertz refresh rate of the display and show you the differences between that. There are some cool demos about how the Joy-Cons work, and there are some cool things in it, but it's just not a fun experience like how Astro's Playroom was on the PS5, which was free, by the way. That was pretty good.
Yeah, thanks.
I was a little bit disappointed with that game. I wouldn't advise picking it up unless you really, really want to know about each and every detail about your Switch 2. But what do you think?
50-50.
50-50. Okay, so that's a 5 on 10.
Yeah, not bad.
5 on 10. I'm surprised that Nintendo made such a boring experience. Usually their first party stuff is amazing. The start of the show for me in terms of games has been Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I did play this game originally. I never quite finished it because I didn't want to finish it. It was so good, I just wanted to keep playing it. But eventually other games came along, I stopped playing it. But I did upgrade it to the Switch 2 version of the game. And just getting back into Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has been just a joy, especially with this version of the game because it has upgraded visuals. It runs at a much smoother frame rate, and just the graphics and the HDR and everything just really pops on the screen. And it is the definitive way to play Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And if you haven't played the Zelda games before, I highly recommend picking up a Switch 2 and playing Zelda on it. It is an amazing experience. Now, the other cool thing with the Switch 2 is that so many of the older games have been upgraded for the Switch 2 for free. Games like Super Mario 3D World look amazing on this. It runs way better on this. Super Mario Odyssey as well has been upgraded for free. Mario Party Superstars. It's just given a fresh coat of paint to all the previous games that I already own on this, which has been amazing. So I've been exploring some of my older games again, but Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Kart World, I think these are no-brainers. You should pick them up. Okay, so in conclusion, my thoughts on the Switch 2. This is a evolution of the Switch. It is exactly what the name says, it's the Switch 2. It's not very different from how the Switch experience was, but it's improved in every single way. So imagine like going from an iPhone 10 to now getting a 16 Pro Max, right? Like it's bigger in size, the screen is nicer, it's got a higher refresh rate, everything feels smooth and beautiful on it, but it's still got the you know, like just like the iPhone has iOS every year, this still has the same operating system, the same look and feel. But yes, the graphics on this are way better. The screen size and the clarity and the resolution as well as the brightness is much better. The JoyCons feel nicer. It just feels like a grown-up Switch, and it doesn't feel like a kid's console anymore. A more grown-up console for sure, because it competes with the likes of, I'd say, a PS5 now. You can play games like Cyberpunk on this. I think the Switch 2 will probably have a lot more third-party support than the Switch had, just because it's got much more horsepower in it. And games like Elden Ring and Cyberpunk are coming here. Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is coming up in a month, looks amazing, so I'm looking forward to play that. And yes, I'm like really happy actually with the Switch 2. It's reinvigorated my love for the Switch. But even the original Switch was amazing, and I think the Switch 2, especially if you never owned a Switch, it's a great time to buy one right now and try out some of Nintendo's first-party exclusives. And if you even had the original Switch, I think this is a large enough upgrade that it's justified to pick this up. I just wish it wasn't as expensive as it is. And Nintendo is kind of nickel and diming you with all the accessories and even the games. Like Mario Kart World was $80 on this, which I don't think it's worth $80. But anyway, if you love the Switch and if you love gaming, I think this is a great handle to go with. Okay.
These are so fun. You should try to get a Nintendo Switch 2. It'll be awesome. Please try to get this game. And make sure to get more subscribers. Not enough yet. Okay, subscribe. And check out our channel.